Back, you're watching The Money Show on ET Now. Did you know that now even a Hindu married woman has equal rights to her father's property, ancestral property, which is in an HUF? Well, this and many other provisions do exist, which have been provided for by the government of India to ensure protection of a woman's financial rights, be it in the form of jewelry or any other assets that she does have right and access to. So let's understand this topic a bit more to ensure that all you women know what your rights are. Flavia Agnes, women's rights lawyer and co-founder of Majlis, joins us now on the show. Ms. Agnes, really appreciate you giving us time today on ET Now. I'm sure it's been difficult for you to remove schedule from, I'm sure what is a very busy day for you. But, Ms. Agnes, let's start by talking about a scenario of what happens post-marriage. Usually after marriage, a woman moves to her husband's house, which is a joint family setup. The husband lives with the parents. She brings along with her jewelry, maybe some money that has been gifted to her by her parents. Many a times they are working, the woman is working as well, so she has her separate bank account and all the other accounts that she has going on. So let's understand, what are the financial rights post-marriage? What are the most common mistakes women make once they get married? To what extent do certain assets need to be merged, like a bank account, etc., needs to be merged with the husband's family? If you could just explain that in detail to our viewers.
There is a tradition among Hindu families in particular that after the wedding day, you hand over all the jewelry that was put on you by your own parents as well as by the husband's family, and the mother-in-law keeps it with her. According to me, this is most dangerous for women because they need to have custody of their own jewelry. Because for women, this is the most important asset. So you can place it in a locker in the joint name of yourself and your husband, or your mother-in-law and yourself. But you should always ensure that you have control of it. You don't have to ask anybody when you want to wear some jewelry. According to me, this is most important. If there are problems in the marriage and a woman has to leave, it is very important that she leaves with her jewelry. And she leaves with all her important documents, like PAN card, Aadhaar card, birth certificate of her children, marriage certificate. All these documents are very important for her. And nobody can withhold this from her. But women generally leave without these documents and without their jewelry. And they expect a lawyer to go to court and ask for the return of it. That is extremely difficult. If the women were more cautious, if they had some idea that they have to protect their assets, they have to leave with them and don't expect a court order to retrieve them. Even if you're not left with them, immediately you should go to the police station and file a complaint and say that this is the jewelry and this is in the locker or this is in the cupboard at home and I want my jewelry back, and ask the police to help you. And there's something like search and seizure. Immediately the police will go and search and seize that jewelry. They will not give it to the woman, but they will keep it in their custody until a court order is obtained. But at least you can ensure that the jewelry is safe. But very, very seldom women do this.
All right. Mrs. Agnes, I think that's very valid points that you have raised right there with respect to essentially what happens if you are on the verge of a separation. Ensure that you have possession of all your legal documents. So your PAN card, your Aadhaar card, passport, your jewelry, of course, very important as well, your children's birth certificates. Ensure that you have all of these documents in your possession, because once you leave, it's extremely difficult to then retrieve them. Even if, let's say, you have left, it's important that you first go over to the police station and file a report asking for the possession of all these items. The police can retrieve it and keep it in their possession. It'll probably be in the police's custody, but at least you know that they are safe. Okay, let's talk now about what happens after that process. Let's say a woman has separated, or she has officially been divorced, legally divorced from her husband. What are her financial rights post a divorce in terms of maintenance? And also, Miss Agnes, one more question here. If a woman is working, is she still entitled to get any sort of maintenance from her husband?
In our country, we don't have a separation of property. There is, in other countries, there's a concept called matrimonial property. The house, for instance, is part of the matrimonial property. Whatever you have accumulated post-marriage is considered as a joint matrimonial property. But we don't have this concept in our law. We're going by the old common law, British common law concept is by title. Whoever has a title gets it. So most of the savings, the house, everything would be in the husband's name, or at least the husband's name is first, and he has full custody over it. Now, a woman doesn't have any right upon divorce for property division at all, unless she is in a joint matrimonial home where her name appears. And she says, by title, I should be entitled to half this property or the equivalent value of it. That's only when her name is there on it. If her name is not there, she doesn't even get this right. But under the Domestic Violence Act, we have a concept called matrimonial residence. So if she has been residing in that house, she can get a protection order that she cannot be dispossessed from that place and that he cannot throw her out. A protection injunction that he will not be violent towards her, he will not throw her out of the residence, she will continue to stay there. But women find it extremely difficult to stay with a husband who is extremely cruel and continues to be abusive towards her. So they say, I prefer to leave the house. I prefer to stay separate. But I'm afraid that staying separate, she loses the right of residence. She doesn't have the right there. So that is, our laws are very, very biased, and it's a very tightrope for women. So whether a woman is working or not working, or whether she's a housewife, this right prevails, the right of residence. Unfortunately, you're right that if a woman is working, she is not entitled to maintenance. She's entitled to half the property that was acquired after marriage if she asks for it. But only that is acquired after marriage and is in the joint name. But now the courts are expanding this concept and say even if it is not in the joint name, a woman has worked, a value for housework, she has contributed to this. So the courts are a bit more lenient on this concept and she gets that right. But that's a very difficult fight for the woman to go through.
Okay, Ms. Agnes, let's talk about the inheritance laws now, particularly around HUFs, which was recently, tweaked.
That's a recent judgment, I think in July 2020. We had this law since 2005 that a Hindu woman is entitled to her parental property equal to that of her son. And if he is a HUF member, she also becomes an HUF member. But that was never implied on the ground. And it was still assumed that a married woman has no right to the inheritance, to the native family property. But recently, the recent judgment very clearly laid down that and then there was another concept that if a father was alive in 2005, then a daughter would be entitled. But if he had died before that and property was partitioned before 2005, then a married woman gets no right at all. But the recent judgment said that whether a woman was married or not before 2005, and whether the father was alive at 2005 or not, it doesn't matter. this goes to this applies to all the property. And even if the property was already partitioned, the woman can still claim for her right. So this was an important judgment that gives woman equal right in her inheritance, equal to that of her brother.
Finally, Ms. Agnes, let's also talk about the rights of a working woman in employment when she goes on maternity leave.
See, recently the maternity benefit leave, it was earlier 3 months, but now it has become 6 months. And if you're working you're a government servant, then you are also entitled to a 2 years leave. You don't have to take it at the time of maternity, but till your child reaches 18, anytime you can avail of this. You can avail of it in parts also, 6 months at one time, 6 months at another time. But overall, 2 years. And that's a very positive step, but it's only for government servants. But for all others, at least 6 months of maternity leave, and then creche benefits. And then, of course, we have sexual harassment at workplace, that law. But many women feel that by taking option of this leave, they lose out in the hierarchy, they lose out in their position at work. And because of that, they prefer not to take this leave and continue to work so that they maintain their position at work.
I just really appreciate you joining us with your pearls of wisdom, and I hope a lot of women are a bit more aware now of what their rights are at every stage in life. And on that note, we'll have to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back.